Hi, and welcome to the Jake Roque Show, a podcast dedicated to the pursuit of being happier, healthier, wealthier, and wiser. Each episode, I interview an interesting creative entrepreneur, thought leader, successful business person, or all-around cool human, and see how we can gain some applicable knowledge to better ourselves and expand our worldview. On this episode, I'm joined by the man himself, Warren Lentz. Warren has tons of experience in the industry with special insight into working with influencers as a talent manager and now the director of creator partnerships at Fullscreen. He gives some powerful tips on being successful and making money on YouTube, getting brand deals, how to find a manager, some YouTubers that are great to work with and some that are a total pain, his favorite self-improvement books, and so much more. Warren's a really great dude, so without further ado, here he is. Warren, what's up? Welcome to the show.
So good to be here.
Dude, thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
To intro a little bit about who you are.
Yeah.
I feel like, before we even get there, I feel like this is going to be an interesting podcast for those of you that are interested in like the behind the scenes of social media content creation, of like the YouTube world. I also feel like me and Warren think similarly about a lot of things too. So
we have a lot to talk about.
To like, bounce back and forth. And we're into the same kind of topics. You are, I did a little snooping on your official titles on LinkedIn before you came in. But you're the director of creator partnerships at Fullscreen. And previously, a couple years ago or so, you were working as a talent manager for a couple years there as well.
Yeah, I've been in the space for about 9 years. So I went to film school at Northwestern and then moved out here from Chicago.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of different titles, but I've been behind the scenes for a while. I started at WME, which is like a big talent agency.
Right.
If you're listening to this and don't know what that is, that's like, there's CAA, WME. That's where a lot of the top, like more like traditional talent are at. Like Ben Affleck and those folks. But then I went over to Yahoo. I was at Yahoo for 3 years, producing digital content and kind of running talent for them. And then I've been at Fullscreen for almost 4 years now, doing a bunch of different things with YouTubers and influencers and brands. And I'm sure I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah. So I feel like I didn't tell you about this, so it's kind of fun. But when I was looking through your LinkedIn, someone wrote this review about you. That was
really?
glowing.
I don't even know.
This glowing review. And I was just like, this is probably a good summation of what you do. So Warren Lentz, it looks like it's a couple years dated because it says talent manager, which a little while ago, but talent manager doesn't begin to describe what Warren brings to the team. He's humble, hardworking, persistent, respectful, thoughtful, and composed. Warren is constantly learning, growing, and supporting others doing the same. He's a natural networker and extremely resourceful. We're going to talk about networking a little bit later, but I feel like I know you're a solid person at that. Making him a reliable and trustworthy teammate for our programs at Fullscreen, Warren not only finds the right talent to support our campaigns, but also takes the time to onboard the individuals as well as our internal team and clients to ensure a mutually beneficial relationship. He's involved in the entire marketing cycle, ensuring his decisions are pointed and strategic, and allowing for him to own tertiary fancy words on LinkedIn, elements of the talent relationship, such as production shoots, live events, press opportunities, etc.
Wow.
They go on a little bit, but I feel like a lot of it seems spot on because I know you are a very like strategic and like friendly person. And I feel like a lot of that like seems true. So I thought it'd be good to talk about that, but it also gives a little bit of insight onto what you actually do working at Fullscreen too. Which is, I'm sure has changed over the years. As the director of creator partnerships, what type of partnerships are you working on?
So right now, Fullscreen has about 2,200 YouTube channels or influencers in our network.
It's a lot.
And it's a lot. It used to be a lot more than that. And we actually cut out, what was that?
Right. No,
it used to be a lot more. And then we ended up really cutting down a lot of the ones that we couldn't monetize that well, because there's a lot of channels out there that can't be monetized or we can't sell against. But what I'm tasked with is I have a team of 7 people, and we talk to a lot of different brands or companies that are looking to do marketing of some kind, or endorsement deals, partnerships, and my team is responsible for partnering them with talent that makes sense, right?
Okay.
So a lot of the talent that are at Fullscreen, they're there for a few reasons. One, like we sell a lot of the media on their channels for a higher rate than Google might be able to sell. So that's a big value add. And then we also offer a host of tools in order to help them optimize their channel. But then we also want to bring them brand deals when we can. So what I'm doing now is really trying to find who are the folks out there that want to spend money on influencers and ultimately, like, what does that look like? Like, what's the cycle of a deal? How does that even happen? So that's kind of what I'm doing every day now. And I've been doing this specific role for about almost a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Epic. And when you're working as a talent manager, how many, like, I guess it's probably changed over the years too, because you guys have cut down a lot, but how many people were you working with at a single point in time when you were managing talent?
So the talent manager that I was on the brand side. So I was running AT&T's campaign for the year. So I was like a buyer buying the talent. But I was working with our official talent managers every day. So they would have on their roster, that's what we call it, their roster. They would have anywhere from like 100 channels that they were responsible for talking to. But the ones that had, more of the channels that took more time or were, quote unquote higher profile, I guess you could say, that might have been like maybe 20 or 30.
Okay.
So there's a huge range.
Still a pretty big number. Even.
There's a pretty big number. Yeah. I mean, if you're a talent manager and you're not working at a big company, I mean, you might only manage like maybe, 3 or 5 or 10.
Right.
But it really all depends. If you have one talent that can really support your lifestyle from all the work you're doing with them, then you can only have a couple. If you want to, but I mean, you're devoting your life to them, right? Like you're with them when they travel, and it's really hard to scale that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
By the way, thank you for this juice,
bro. Of course.
we can talk about that later, but I'm a health nut, and I've had many juicing sessions that have taken me hours on Saturdays.
Some juicy juicing sessions.
Yeah,
exactly. It's kind of becoming a theme on the podcast actually. Because
Is it?
I like juice.
Oh,
pretty consistent. Every couple of days or so, and so people come over. I'm like, oh yeah, most people love juice, so give them some fresh squeezed carrot, apple, celery juice.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
It's really healthy for you. It's healthy for you because there's no fiber, so it goes right into your bloodstream.
Really?
Yeah. So you feel it right away.
I know that there's some ups and downs to like juice over like vegetables, and pros and cons. But yeah. That's
well, I would argue juice your vegetables, so then you take out the fiber, and then all the vitamins and minerals, your body absorbs them so much more efficiently.
Wow.
Right. So
I didn't even read about that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm on the juice train.
Yeah, keep going.
Mainly because it's just, because it's so good.
Well, it helps your skin. It helps your sleep.
Yeah,
you have to do juice. You have to have vegetables though. If it's all like apple juice, for example, it's all sugar. Yeah. So this is good because this is celery. A little splash. Yeah, we just put a little splash of apple.
Juice. I love celery juice, but man, sometimes it just comes out tasting like dirt, bro.
Dude, if you ever juice kale, that's brutal.
Yeah.
That can be spicy.
But I've kind of stopped juicing like leafy greens because like for the finances of it.
Not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, like you put so much in and you get this tiny bit of juice.
Especially spinach. You can do a huge bag of spinach and get like half an inch.
Right. I got that Costco bag and it was like about to go bad, so I juiced the whole thing and I had like high key maybe a cup of spinach. And it was like a 5-pound bag of spinach or whatever it is. Like it was huge. Yeah.
That's brutal.
Gnarly. Juice your vegetables, kids. Anyways.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too. So having been a talent manager, knowing a lot around that, at what point in time would you say someone should start like getting on the, I need a manager train? Like when is that? Like what stage in someone's career is that a good idea? And then also too, how would you recommend somebody going about that? Let's say knowing that Fullscreen has managers, so like maybe talking a little bit about that, but also like what other options might be out there for someone that's like maybe, a musician or someone that's making whatever type of YouTube content or whatever it is. Like where should that person go to get some management support? Yeah, no, that's a great question that hopefully a lot of people are thinking about. I think if you're a creator and you know that you want kind of your career to ultimately be creating, and you want to get to a place where you can monetize what you're doing in a meaningful way, then you should have a vision for having a manager eventually. I think the question is, once you've made that decision and you know that's where your career is headed,
then how do you go about doing that, right? So I mean, the first thing is, you're going to need to make yourself attractive to a manager to the point where they're bought into your vision, like they see your talent. They'll need to meet you and know that you're a good person to work with. There's a handful of talent that just sometimes, if you bring them a brand deal and they're not going to reply to your email, or they're going to be late on it, it makes you as the manager look really bad.
Yeah.
And, like for me, example, I have like a lot of brands that I've worked with in the past. If I'm going to vouch for a talent or a client and tell them, hey, you need to hire this person, they're obviously so talented. Here's all their stuff. Here's their metrics. Here's their engagement. Here's what they've done in the past, and they're always on it. If I say that and convince them to hire you, and then you blow it, that makes me look really bad, and that hurts my credibility. So,
right.
I think that there's certainly different levels. If you're a talent that doesn't want to give a commission, like let's say you're making just enough to get by, I mean, a good manager is not free. You're gonna have to pay them, a 15% cut, or I mean, some managers take 20 or 30, some will do 10, like the agencies do 10, but the managers typically do 15.
Right.
You're going to need to give up some of that money. But if some talent don't want a manager until they really, really need it, because they just want to do everything themselves. And sometimes that's because, I don't know if control freak is the right word, but it is tough for a creative to be throwing themselves into their craft while trying to keep up with an exploding Gmail inbox. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
So I think that there's not really a time where you need to get one, but if you start to get overwhelmed or you start to be in a place where you're actually making money, then you need to find someone. Because if there's deals coming in and you're not able to reply to them quick enough and you lose out on that money, then your first priority should be finding someone that would want to hopefully manage you.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like especially when you're at that, there's the benefits of one, having someone to manage all that for you, even someone that has the experience of, being able to take what you do and seeing the value in it and approaching brands for you and saying like, hey, we have this proposition for you. Another big part of it too, I was talking with I was at the YouTube space yesterday. Yeah. Which is right next to your work.
I work like 100 feet away from that.
Yeah, I almost drove there. I almost went to drop by.
Oh yeah. Text me whenever you're there.
Yeah. I was there and I was talking with a creator who actually his whole channel is centered around K-pop, like reviewing K-pop songs and stuff like that. And he's like blown up in the past year. They're getting they're putting out like 2-3 videos a week. Each of them are getting 60, 70, 80,000 views a pop, right? So it's like a pretty solid thing that they've built up, especially in a year's span of time. Yes. And he just did a brand deal for I won't say the numbers for it because I haven't asked his permission, but it was like a 6-video brand deal for much, much, much less than he should have been doing to shout out some like drink or something that. And it was one of those things. He's like, yeah, now I know because I've like done the research, but
I'm curious which beverage company it is. I know Bang Energy is spending a lot of money right now.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it was. In fact, I haven't said his name, so I think we'll be fine. Yeah. He's asked to come on the podcast too. I'm sure he'll be fine talking about it. But yeah, it was 6 videos for $400.
Okay.
And
he should be a little more than that for sure.
Yeah. And especially like people, there's something called the social blue book, which is like a good metric for you doing these things on your own. I would say it's a little bit generous towards the creator side from my experience of like what people are able to work out, for sure. But it's a good place to see like, okay, this is more or less close to the dollar amount. Even maybe you should be asking that and then let people counter and say, okay, let's say Social Blue Book says I'm doing 1,000 per video. So I say 1,000, someone counters with 500 instead of them coming up to you and be like, hey, we'll give you $100 for this video. And then you have to try and pull them up to whatever it is.
I love this topic because this is a really applicable one. I mean, so today I closed a deal for a client. This one was, so the offer came in at $2,200 for 2 Instagram stories and 1 Instagram static post.
Okay.
And we ended up I think I countered at like $5,000 or $6,000 and we closed at $3,500. I didn't think the talent was going to accept because the talent usually gets like at least $5,000, but it was a brand that they were excited about. So we ended up closing it at $3,500.
Right.
Now that's an example going from $2,200 to $3,500. I think that's like a 58% increase, or I forget what it was, but it was substantial. So in this case, like being the manager, we made our 15% because we got the offer up in a significant way. But
right.
The art of like negotiating is so big. I just finished a book called Never Split the Difference, which is an awesome book about
who's it by?
Theory. I don't remember who it's by, but it's by this expert who used to be a negotiator for hostage situations with the FBI.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the anecdotes he gives are like real life or death situations, but which I apply to these $3,000 YouTube deals. But yeah, so I think $400. So that guy you spoke about earlier, you mentioned like if he's getting 70,000 views a video, just to do quick math, so 3 of those a week is like 210.
Right.
So 4 weeks a month times 410, he's doing about 800,000 views a month. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I'm just thinking like, how much does he make a year? Does he also have a full-time job on the side? Do you think your audience knows about CPMs and how those work? Because I'm curious if you want to talk about that at all.
I'm sure some people do, but it's a great thing to extrapolate on.
Yeah.
So CPM is cost per mil, right? And it's one like dollar amount for every 1,000 views, basically. Yeah.
So I think $4 is a good average. So a $4 CPM is $4 for every 1,000 views.
Okay. Is that for ad revenue on a channel, or is
that's
that
for
YouTube endorsement deals?
So that's for, so CPM applies to both. A CPM on YouTube is going to be a lot lower than a brand deal. So that's why a lot of creators want a brand deal, because they can get, a $4 CPM from YouTube, or they can get, much higher, maybe like a $30 or $40 CPM from a brand deal.
Okay, yeah.
But a rule of thumb, I would say, is every 1 million views a creator gets is probably about maybe $2,000.
Okay.
So it's
ad revenue.
For ad revenue from YouTube.
Right.
It's actually 4,000, but YouTube takes like 45% of that. Mm-hmm. So the creator's getting half of that essentially.
Right.
But I mean, if you're a YouTuber and you're getting 1 million views per video, you're making $2,000 a video. But if you're getting like 1 million views a month, you're making $2,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So each person needs to figure out like, can they live on that? How badly do they need other brand deals? Do they have to have a separate job until they get to a point where they're at 5 million views a month, or 3 million?
Because you can go full time way earlier too if you're able to go with those external brand deals instead of relying just on your ad revenue. Especially because depending on your type of content too, I've seen some people on YouTube that I know are getting like $11, $12 for their
CPMs?
ad revenue. Yeah, which is very, very high.
It's very high.
I've also seen people getting like 96 cents for every 1,000 views.
Yeah.
So it's like depending on your content. If it's considered like, there's like the whole like family friendly kind of thing, you get demonetized in that way. There's also things that people just will pay less for, So if you're, from what I've seen, people in that like finance and like real estate world, people will pay a lot more for that more targeted thing, rather than if you're making music or doing lifestyle or beauty or whatever it is. If it's a little bit more generic, a lot of times too, you're from what I've seen, your CPMs are going to be a bit lower.
A lot lower. Yeah. And the obvious reason is that the type of viewer watching, let's say like a real estate video, might be the type of person that would have more disposable income. So then brands are able to, they want to spend more on that channel. Mm-hmm. The other side of the equation is if you are a creator and you get to a point where you're making enough money from the brand deals and you don't care about being completely demonetized. Excuse me. Like take David Dobrik, for example.
Yeah.
His videos are demonetized basically every single video because he plays ABBA music and he doesn't care. Right. So he has all these videos that get, 5 to 8 million views a video right now. And he's not making any money off them. Right. He's only getting money on merch and brand deals and anything else that Jack brings him. And in my head, I'm going, okay, if he was able to monetize those 8 million views and get like 16 to 20 grand a video, that's insane.
Right.
But he's not, and he doesn't want to, because he made a personal decision, I would think, to know that he'd rather grow his channel or give his like viewers just the best video possible. So he's, willing to use all the copyrighted music that he can find and not care.
Yeah.
But
that's
most people
a really
can't do
interesting
that.
approach, because I think a big thing I see is the people that are willing to put like their content first of everything else. Like, they're going to be the people that went out, not the people that are maybe focused on like, okay, now I have 1,000 views per video. How can I make the most money off this?
Well, no, that's a good point. Like, I mean, most of every successful creator has started by saying, how can I make the best content, or what do I love to do? They're not starting from a place of, I want to do YouTube because I want to make tons of money.
Yeah. There's another question I had maybe for later, but I feel like it fits perfect here,
sure.
Which is like, are there things with a lot of the creators that you work with? Are there some commonalities that you see that are, like a similar trait through these really successful creators that you see over and over that they're all kind of doing, or like kind of, those things that you see in a lot of them?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is that, look, to be a successful creator where you're at a point where you're interfacing with like managers or people that work at brands, whatever, you have to have gotten to a certain place where you're getting like a decent amount of views and you have a following, and that doesn't happen by accident, and it takes a lot of skills. Like, it's not just if you look at an actor, an actor can focus on being an actor, but if you look at a YouTuber, they're usually their own DP, their own editor, their own producer, their own writer, their own actor. If they're doing any kind of acting, they go buy their own props. They're everything, right? So It takes a unique individual to pull all those pieces together. So, I view every talent as like their own producer, which is why it's fun. Because if you're working with traditional talent, they don't always have the same instincts that a quote unquote like professional YouTuber has. So I enjoy it because, these people I work with every day, they're multifaceted. They're really strategic and holistic around how they think of their brand and their careers. And it's not like, I try not to look at what I'm doing day to day as just kind of like a brand slap, like let's slap this brand on your video. Like, it really needs to make sense for you as the creator with what, like for you, Jake, like, would this brand ever make sense to partner with you? Like, would you want that? But then also, is the brand going to have been excited about that partnership, right? When you talk about them, like, is it something that you would actually be excited about and a product or a service that you would use? Or would you just be like, I just want to take the money and run? Because as soon as it becomes transactional, then everyone gets turned off, right?
Right. The viewers. And I think that's a big thing that you see too when someone sells out like on a single video.
Yeah.
Then nobody trusts, the next 23 videos that they come out with that are endorsed, because it's like, you gave us this one crappy thing already, And I've seen that like a few times with some big creators that you probably I probably won't name the names of, but it's like you see them drop, a video that's like encouraging their young fans to gamble, like on this stupid thing that
mystery box.
Yeah. That was the one that
we were part of that. That hit the trades. So Rice Gum and a few others partnered with this company called Mystery Box.
Right.
And it
Rice
was
Gum, Jake Paul.
Yeah. And ultimately it was this company where you buy this gift box, and then it's kind of a surprise what comes in the box.
Oh, okay. So, I did see that one. There was another one that I saw that was a little more sketchy. That was I think it was mainly like, it was just straight up like online gambling. You pay money,
really?
and then there is some sort of like you might win some kind of prize or whatever. But yeah, the mystery box thing, I saw this one too, which similar lane.
Yeah, similar lane. And each creator needs to just know. They just need to know their audience, and they also need to know where their moral boundaries are. Like like, is promoting gambling something that you want to open up your audience to, or are you going to lose 10% of them and then make 5% really mad, and like you just don't know where they're at. And like a really big name, like everyone would want a brand deal with, like, let's say Nike, right? Whereas if there's a company that wants to sponsor like a home renovation kind of a thing, and then that and you're 21 and in an apartment and that doesn't apply to you at all, then there's no possibility to really work there.
Yeah.
So it's a fluid conversation that we're having every day with tons of brands and tons of creators, but it's fun though, because I love making deals, and I love bringing money to people and getting the brand excited. It's fun.
Yeah, I don't to circle back to that question a little bit. I think I pulled us a little bit away from it.
No,
but what are some of those like those common things that you're seeing these creators too?
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I like took us down another train.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. I think
there are things that you like. A lot of the successful people.
Yeah. One of them is being a good entrepreneur, or just being self-governed, I would say. Like, you can't, like, no one's going to babysit you or make you do it unless you have a manager, and that's kind of became their role, which happens sometimes. But you need to kind of be able to handle your own schedule. You need, for example, if you want to, if you want to grow and you're in this stage where you're starting to get traction and you're starting to get some people following you, like you need to post consistently and not stop. And that's tough because it's tough to not take a break, and that's where the burnout comes from.
Right.
A lot of people will hit a certain kind of point where they posted like twice a week, and then they'll do it for a month, and they'll see, wow, I just got tons more viewers. I'm gonna do daily vlogs. I'm gonna do a video every day, and they make this grand video about how, guys, get ready. You guys are loving this. I'm gonna and then they're like 4 days in.
all the time. I've done it before. Yeah,
no,
totally.
And then they're 4 days in, and then they go, and then they're gone for like 8 days, and you're like, what happened to them?
Yeah.
Totally. I think Cody Ko actually made fun of this one channel where I think this guy said he was gonna like daily vlog, and he hadn't posted. he didn't post even day 2. Like he didn't even start. And it had been like a year later, and he fell off the face of the earth. But no, so I would say like being like having a good work ethic. It sounds cliche, but it's really tough. Like the number one occupation that young people want to be when they grow up right now is a YouTuber or a blogger. Yeah. Right. It's no longer like a professional athlete. I think athlete was like number 4.
Yeah. So it's not an actor. It's not a rock star.
No. And if you ask most YouTubers that are doing it consistently right now, I mean, they are some of the hardest working people that I've ever met. Like they'll be
people don't know what they're signing up
for. They
don't
know. They like until you've edited till 4 a.m. and then had to get up at 9 to go do another shoot, and then like stuck to a schedule. Like it is. It's kind of a thankless job. Like you have to be self motivated,
right?
Unless you're reading all the comments and that's your source of like getting thanked.
Which you're lucky.
Which is a slippery
if you're
slope.
One of those people.
That's a slippery slope because
Totally.
For every 100 positive comments you get, the one negative one will start to sting potentially more than the 100 feel good.
Totally.
So some creators say they don't look at it, and I don't know if I believe them fully, but hopefully they have self-control not to look at all of them.
I think there's like a super healthy balance in it too, because one, a lot of the people that are going to follow you, they're like, they're about what you're doing, and they're going to be supportive. You know, it's hard to maintain an audience that hates you. Like that's like a difficult thing to do, So
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, for the most part, people you're going to see like a lot of love, I feel like, in just about anybody's comment sections, but also you'll see like probably a minority of hate, like I think it's like less than,
what percent of the comments, like
maybe
2%?
5 to 1, depending on the type of content, whatever it is. But I think that there's a super healthy balance of like looking at what people are saying, taking it in, like even the positive and the negative. Cause I know for me, like, there are times, and a lot of times too, what I think people don't realize when they're commenting is like they already are thinking the things you're thinking that aren't good, So if you come in and they're like, oh, this part of it sucks, like for me, and I'm like a pretty, I would say, well, there's like ebbs and flows, ups and downs, but I'm like a pretty like secure person, I would say, So a lot of the times, like my reaction to a lot of those things is like, oh, this part didn't sound good or whatever. I'm like, I agree. Yeah, I didn't. I think the other parts were better, like that kind of thing.
That part about the engaged audience, or the fact that they are watching because they care, that's a really good point also, because if you look at, if we just take a step back and look big picture, like in the 1960s, there were 3 big TV channels, and that's all people had. You had ABC, CBS, and NBC. Then the next iteration was cable television, and you had all these different stations with, the shows could be a little more niche. There was a few more like progressions, but now we're at a place where YouTube has really enabled it to be just hundreds of thousands of niche communities. Like, for example, if you want to find a channel that's devoted just to Porsches from the 1970s and how to restore them, you can go find that channel. And, and even if it's just, a guy that has, 10,000 followers, he's probably pouring his heart and soul into those videos, not for the money, but for the fact that he's, he has these people that are really care about his same passion point, and
like built like a real community around it.
A real engaged community. And that's part of the sell to brands, is when I'm talking to brands, the fact that this creator has a hyper engaged audience that come there for a reason, and they feel like they're the creator's friend. Like they're going to take their advice and recommendation to heart. And that's why so many companies are now shifting their ad spends from traditional marketing over to digital and like social.
Right. I think that's a big part of it too. And also the fact that people are watching more YouTube than are watching TV, or than are like doing a lot of other forms of things. Like people, especially in our age range.
Yeah.
But even like generally now, they're like consuming a lot more, even YouTube than TV. You know, so probably the primary things. I think, who is it? Like Gary Vee is always like YouTube is the TV and like and TV is the radio. You know, and I think that's like a pretty legit analogy of it, because it's moving into this, you know, like people would rather watch stuff on their phone on the go or consume content like podcasts in your car or whatever it is, rather than sitting in front of your TV like at those allocated times that you got to watch the show, whatever it is like that. We're going to take a really quick commercial break and we'll come right back.
Let's do it.
I'm a big believer that commitment to fitness and health is one of the most important parts of being a high achiever in all areas of life. From vital endorphin releases to deeper sleep, to better emotional, mental, and physical health, increased energy, and confidence in daily life, we all know that we should be staying committed to a consistent workout routine, but knowing what to do and actually sticking with it can be difficult on your own. That's why I've recently launched the online side of my personal training business. I'm a certified personal trainer through the National Council of Certified Personal Trainers, the NCCPT, and I've experience working with a diverse clientele from high-performing athletes to individuals looking to lose 100 pounds or more. One of the most important parts of working with a trainer is having a person who will lay out a plan according to your goals and will continue to check in with you and hold you accountable to showing up and staying on track. Virtual personal training is really simple. I write out a personalized workout plan for you each week, tailored specifically to your fitness goals, and we'll meet once a week via Skype or FaceTime to track your progress, answer any questions you have, and plan out your upcoming week. Most of my in-person clients pay $75 to $85 a session, which is really typical for a lot of big box gyms, places like 24 Hour Fitness, LA Fitness, Equinox, and the like, which in my opinion is still a very worthwhile investment in your own health. But my personal training online programs are just $50 a week for a limited time until my schedule fills up. This is something that I've just recently launched and I'm really excited about. So if you are interested or have any questions, shoot me an email at jakeroque3@yahoo.com. That's Jake, ROQUE 3@yahoo.com with the subject line PT. And I will set you up with a free fitness assessment call where we'll talk through some of your goals and get started on a plan that works for you. Excited to hear from you. Yo, this ad is going to be super short because this segment is brought to you by me. If you're enjoying this podcast, all I want to ask of you is that you rate and review on whatever platform you happen to be listening to, or just freaking smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. I see you. I'm watching you. These things help out a lot, and if you've been getting any value from these discussions, I would really, really appreciate it. A lot of work goes into making these special, so yeah, a little bit in this area would go a long way if you're enjoying the podcast. And also feel free to subscribe on whatever platform you're on to be notified every time a new episode goes live. That's it. Let's get back to the show. So to kind of transition to a slightly different portion of this, I wanted to ask you too, kind of like a little bit of juicy insider info.
Okay.
One, in a super positive way.
Yeah.
Let's start with the positives.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, like, if you've had any experiences with working with specific YouTubers or people that have just been like outstanding, maybe personally, just you really like them, but also from a business standpoint to where you're like, yo, this is what I'd be looking for. Who are like some people like that? What kind of situations or scenarios where you've gone through that have really like stood out to you in that lane, you know?
No, this is a fun one. I have a feeling what the next one is though. But, so yeah, a couple of shout outs. Damon and Joe are travel vloggers, and they reached out to me when I was at Yahoo, and they had, I think they had 15,000 subscribers, and at that time I wasn't able to do anything. They actually DM'd my boss at Yahoo that had a video, and then she sent it over to me, and I talked to them. But then 3 years later, when I was at Fullscreen, they were at, I think, 80,000 or 110,000 subscribers, and we needed to do a travel show. So I hired them to do a travel show for AT&T, and they were so grateful, so excited. It was their first like legitimate brand deal and good payday. for where they were at, and they were always on time with all the deliverables, and there was a lot. I mean, we had like somewhere around 10 episodes, but then a lot of social posting to promote each episode, and they were people that I could count on to really get the copyright,
stick to like content
stick
calendar
to it,
kind of thing.
but they went above and beyond, right? So they posted more than they had to, and they were amazing, and now they're over 1 million. But they're a good example of creators that had to work for that 1 million for close to a decade potentially.
What's their YouTube channel? So people can check it out?
Damon and Joe, DAMON and JO.
Okay,
so they actually met on Facebook in college, and then they started traveling together, and then they actually have a blog about traveling. They're amazing. I've hired Scotty Sire a few times, who is also. I think
Scotty was recording.
He lives close to here, by the way.
Yeah,
he
was here recording with David.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was here.
They did.
The studio's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, they did something recently. Yeah,
we're in Jake's garage right now. Everyone.
The garage studio.
Yeah, I love all the guitars on the wall. Scotty's someone that we've hired him to like create a song for a brand that he was really like collaborative and.
When was this? How long ago is this?
This was, I think,
a few months
2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
He did, or maybe 1.5 years ago, but he did a show called The Bright Fight.
Okay.
And he did an entire song about not using any more plastic straws in order to save the environment. And AT&T actually came on and sponsored that.
Epic,
So Scotty, we also did this activations on the Santa Monica Pier, and he got there early. He came with Kristen. And like the rest of the vlog squad came at the end of the day and kind of did this whole huge thing where we had everyone put their straw in and say, "This is my last straw," and it was kind of this whole thing. But he's someone who's really good. I think you're friends with the next one, and I'll cap it at this. But Tiffany Alvord is also we've done a handful of campaigns with her, and she's on it. I mean the
cool.
best.
She just nails everything, bro. She's like really. I feel like business wise, she just.
She's multi-talented. She can sing and act and talk to the camera, and she can do a lot.
Totally.
For sure.
Shout out.
Is the next one who's bad?
Yes. Someone as to, which, we'll probably spare them the dropping their name on it. But I mean, if you want, I won't stop you. But like what are some times where people have interacted with you in like a more negative way, or times where you've been like, oh gosh, this is like the nightmare scenario of working with a YouTube kid?
I think the biggest issue is when we lock down more of like a partnership deal where it's bigger than a normal transactional brand deal. Like a brand creates like an entire show with a creator, and then we agree on the creative beforehand. But then we actually get to the production days, and the talent. And this happened. Like the talent wanted to change the creative after we hired a production crew. We had the directors. We had the creative directors there as well. And the brand, like it took so much time for the brand to approve the creative that was already approved by the talent.
Right.
This talent didn't understand that this isn't like a video for
the day before. Yeah.
No, you can't. Like it's not even gonna live like on your channel. Like we're making the show for another outlet. Like you are the star of this show. But that doesn't mean you can treat it creatively like an episode or a video on your YouTube channel. Because that's a big thing that creators have an issue with, is that their whole life they've controlled every aspect, right? They've controlled the editing, they've controlled like the color in post, and then you get to the first time where they're having the creative taken away from them a little bit. Even just like a tiny bit, and it's tough for some of them to really be okay with that. And the irony is that a lot of creators, at least a few years ago, they wanted to eventually do TV and do movies, and once they get on a real set, then it's like a totally different ballgame.
I want to go back to making my own stuff.
Well, a lot of them do. A lot of them are like, I kind of enjoy.
That was a super interesting. I feel like it was a phase kind of, but it was super interesting to see a lot of creators that. For a couple years, maybe like 2-ish years ago or so, everybody was pushing like, oh, I get this, I get to go mainstream. Now I'm legit, now like if I'm getting on the Food Network or I'm on this TV show, like whatever it is, it like made them feel like they were legit. Yeah. And then they did it, and then they're like, oh, this sucks. And I make way less money. That's a big thing too. People
way
are
less.
Like, people are like, oh, like they think they want to do it because it kind of like, is what they've dreamed of doing, but then they realize, no, like what has gotten me here is what I actually like to do, not what I thought would be cool when I got there, you know?
Yeah, we're actually at a really weird intersection where a lot of influencers are starting to become more traditional talent. Like if you look at Liza Koshy or, you know, anyone at that level that has been able to kind of cross over. But then you also have, let's say, Zac Efron, who started on as this traditional talent and now has a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Noah Schnapp, for example, he's about to hit 2 million subs, and you know, Fullscreen's kind of like been, you know, working with them to kind of help them do that. But that's really interesting because
there's a lot. I mean, even you see a lot of like Jimmy Butler, and Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, like a lot of athletes. You see like. Yeah, a lot of like mainstream, you know, Will Smith, like a lot of actors, like a lot of people are like, oh, wait, I can also do, you know, run my own show and call the shots and do whatever the heck I want.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of Instagram stuff.
Yeah.
For them to do full on YouTube, they usually have to hire a team because it's
right.
more heavier lifting.
Well, yeah, I've seen, yeah, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, they all have vlogs or like series of shows on YouTube. Yeah. And then, yeah, like, you know, Will Smith does, you know, obviously he's got a team producing a lot of stuff for him, but yeah, like the people breaking into the YouTube are like, they're doing it and it seems like they're really enjoying it too, you know, and they're getting a lot more viewership because they can make more content. You know, it's not like when you make a movie and you get, you know, you put out your one movie every 6 months or whatever it is. Like if you're lucky and you're busy, you know, and you're not like Kevin Hart or like The Rock or whoever, just like in every movie ever, always, you know, but like most of those people, they release like 1 or 2 things a year instead of being able to like, I made 7 videos this month.
Or
like,
Scorsese and you do one, you know, every 7-8 years.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
But it's bizarre.
Bro. Interesting. Really, really interesting stuff. Let's see what I'm going to ask you next. I'll probably cut it here.
No, there's a lot. Yeah, there's so much we can talk about here.
What's your advice for someone that doesn't have a manager right now? That has like, I'm asking this question for myself. I'm framing it as this imaginary person that might be in this place, but it's me. The answer, it's me. For this imaginary person who maybe is like kind of on that middle ground to where right now my channel is like, we're sitting around 20,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
I don't have management. I'm looking to like be able to make that transition hopefully within this next year to make this like my full-time job and yeah, really be able to like devote all of my time to this. I think once you can make that jump too and you can like spend all of your time doing it, focusing in on it, it's probably like a little bit easier to grow in that realm too. But what would be your advice for that person who's like maybe not at the manager level but looking to start trying to monetize a bit more too?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, the good news is that you don't need a manager today as much as you would have 10 or 20, you know, years ago.
Right.
If you were an actor and you wanted to break into it, it's much more important that you have an agent who can sell you around town and get you in those casting rooms. As a digital creator, a lot of power is in your hand. You're the only one that can actually produce content and put it up and be consistent and hear what your audience is saying and, you know, evolve and kind of grow that. Like there's really no shortcuts. Having a manager is certainly not going to just help you get to the next level overnight. What a manager could do is open some doors and maybe help you do collaborations. They could maybe help, you know, bring you brand deals potentially. But even brand deals in a large way is kind of an incoming business. A lot of them come from brands directly reaching out to the talent directly. There are managers, though, that have a lot of brand connections and can certainly help. I think putting it out there and letting your friends and people around town know that that's where you're headed and that's what you want. There are hungry managers out there that are always looking to take copies with talent and, you know, really see if it's a fit. There are.
Where would said person go about finding people
that?
Like that? Yeah.
I would say that, you know, if you go on Instagram or YouTube and look at people that are at your level or like a little bit above, you know, where you're at and kind of where you want to be, if you look at who reps them, that's a good starting place. And if you don't know that, you could always email them from their YouTube channel. So you could, you know, like a lot of times it won't say, oh, you know, so-and-so is managed by this person. But if you email them and say, hey man, your channel is like really amazing. who's your manager? I'm, really love what you did last month with this brand deal, and I saw that you made this new format. So like it takes work. It takes like studying to see where they're at,
snooping around a little bit,
and like asking your friends like who manages you, like, hey, like, do you know if they want to take any like new clients at all? I mean, I think that's a big thing. And the other thing is like for you, for example, like what would you want a manager to help you with right now? Like if you had a really good manager tomorrow, what's like the one or two like focus points?
I would say probably the number one would be like brand deals. Yep. So having someone to where, because I find something that I've found that I'm trying to do less of is I try and do, instead of getting help on things I'm not super good at, I try and just get good at everything. So I try and be really good at producing music, really good at playing guitar, really good at playing drums, really good at playing every instrument I need, in the music realm. Or when it comes to video, I want to be really good at shooting, really good at editing, really good at coming up with the idea. I want to be like, I try and be really good at everything instead of being like, okay, there's probably people out there that are better than me at this thing, that would be faster than me at this thing, that I could like, do a little bit of outsourcing to. Yeah. And I've seen that, I think, so there's a lot of, and I think that goes for really maybe like almost any career you're in too. There's probably a lot of things where there's people that are maybe like better than you or as good at you at a thing that can do it faster, where you could outsource to them and have a more efficient workflow. So for me, I think like, if I could focus on putting out 2 videos a week, one being the podcast, one being a personal video, maybe it's a song I've recorded or something else along those lines, which that's a lot of work, right? I'd love to be out of place. It's a lot of work.
Anything with music is a lot of work.
Yeah, music's tough, a tough one to be consistent with. And in fact, part of like the new era of my channel too is being okay not being consistent with it. So like spending time to work on music and make it really good, and if I make one really good song every month, cool, instead of trying to put out like 4 a month that are like 80% as good as what I can make, and so having like, for me, that's a lot of this other content. I really like to do it, but also like strategically, it's like it'll be a good way to supplement being, not just being a musician. But all that to say, like for what I'm looking to do there, that's probably the main thing, is get someone that would be able to reach out to brands, find like consistent, like just do the whole like the business back end of it, because like I think I could do that stuff too, but I'm sure there's someone that can do it better than me, or like has more experience in it, that knows things I don't, or that kind of stuff too, so working with someone in that lane that can even like point me in the right direction or those sorts of things,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think like a big thing is going to be continuing to grow your audience and your engagement. And that's not like, brands aren't looking at how many subscribers you have. They're looking at how many views you're getting. Totally. Right. So also on Instagram, a big metric is engagement. Right. So if you have 10,000 followers and you're getting 1,000 likes on every picture, you got a 10% engagement. That's pretty good. I mean, above 5%.
That's about standard, right? Like around,
I'd say, well, I think average on Instagram is probably like 2 or 3% if you look at across the whole board.
Okay.
But if you look
probably gets lower the bigger someone gets, I would guess.
So Kim Kardashian's engagement rate right now is, I think, 1%.
Okay.
But she has, I don't know, 100 million, like, 80 million.
A million exactly. Likes on every photo is not too shabby.
Whereas someone like, if you look at someone else that has 20 million, but is still a really big person, I mean, they might have like 4 or 5%.
Okay.
There's a handful of creators. Like if anyone's above 10%, then that catches my eye, and I can really try to sell them to a brand as long as it's a good fit. But I mean, brands are buying. They're either buying on conversion, like how many products are they going to sell based off how much are they going to pay you, or they're selling on an impression play, like how is this gonna get my brand's name out there,
right? More of a brand awareness,
and the brand awareness ones are not as common. There's a lot more companies that have a marketing budget and can justify it by.
So you got to be a pretty widely known brand, I think, for that to be your approach, rather than like converting sales.
Exactly.
If it's like Coke, it's like we just want people to see Coke.
Yes. Or AT&T. So I've done a lot of work with AT&T, where I've hired over probably 75 talent for AT&T.
Wow.
And that wasn't to sell cell phone plans. That was to, really kind of shape the AT&T brand in a way that they wanted to shape it. So I think the thing about brand deals specifically, though, and if you're, listening to this and that's your goal as well, to get more brand deals, a lot of it will be making sure that that you're brand friendly. So like not swearing, not doing tons of pranks that are not safe, right? But then also doing proactive outreach to brands that you want to work with. And what that looks like might be, okay, well, like what are 10 products that I use every day? And you think, okay, well, I use Crest toothpaste, I use Head and Shoulders. So coming up with that list, like let's say you bought like a pair of Allbirds, last week, you have that list, and then you literally go on LinkedIn, or you find a tool online to find the email addresses of the people that work there, and you email them and say, hey, I'm a creator, I love your brand, I would love to like partner with you, I love talking about you and kind of sharing what you're about with my audience. Yeah. Like as a marketing exec, when you get that note, even if you don't have budget at the time, you might in 6 months, right? And then you'll look like a superstar.
You might put that person on a list somewhere.
Oh, exactly.
Like, I know the perfect person for it already.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and it takes time. Like I know we all want to think like there's all these brand deals out there for $5,000 and like I just wish I had one every 2 weeks. It's like, well, a lot of people do.
Right.
But in order for a brand to say, okay, here's $5,000 or here's $50,000, there's a lot of work and like justification on there and that goes into it, which is why like I want to know which talent that I have that I know is going to be really excited about that, because it does take work to get them. But in terms of the deals that are at like the 1K to like 5K level, to be honest, like a lot of managers, like it takes so much time to activate those brand deals. A lot of those brand deals are being done by the talent themselves.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of managers out there that are getting 2K brand deals for their talent, because 10% of that's $200.
Right.
So like they can't pay for their own
something
rent.
Like that is not going to be worth it at the end.
Yeah, but I would say that like, the main focus is going to be growing your channel and being consistent with your content. Because look at my my favorite podcast of all time so far is probably Joe Rogan. Right. And he didn't start that thinking, how can he make money? But because he's just so good and so consistent and has amazing people on for 3 hours at a time, just talking about whatever.
And you can tell he really loves it, which is why it's so easy to be consistent. He just that's a good point. Sit down and kick it with someone and have a conversation, which he was like a big inspiration to starting this podcast. I love his show too, and I would sit there and be like, man, wouldn't that be sick to just
he has like the dream job.
Right. You bring in people that you think are really interesting. That's like, maybe I want to learn from you, or I just want to get to know you, or I think you're fun to talk to, whatever it is. It's like, let's just sit down and kick it and talk. And
what's crazy is he does so many of those podcasts per month. Like,
he'll put out like 2 in a day sometimes.
I know. He'll do 2 a day, and then you get to the end of the week and he did, 5 or 6 that week. And I'm thinking, man, he did 5 or 6 2 or 3 hour podcasts. That's his full-time job.
Right.
And he does other stuff. But I mean, imagine if you did this podcast every day for 5 years and you had really interesting people on,
right?
But like way more interesting than me. Like you would grow a ton. Like it's all
hard to get more interesting than you want.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. But I mean, it's hard. The exciting thing is it's hard, but it's not impossible, and it's kind of like dieting. Like people know what it means to eat healthy, but just doing it is really hard.
Right.
Like being consistent as a creator, like everyone knows, like, oh, I need to like not miss a posting day, and I need, because then my fans will get mad. But like doing that, like when you're tired or when you can't find, or when like you had a guest that drops out and you don't have a backup, or maybe you just too tired or got sick or something. Like, it's work. It's work.
Yeah.
People think that it's all fun and games, but like you have to think of questions, and you need to like plan, and like we're in LA, right?
Yeah.
So there's all this driving and
and
not to complain. I mean, I know we're super blessed, but
right.
I just want to make sure people know it's not as easy as just like it might look.
Yeah, because you see the easiest part. You don't see, even right now, like Joe for his podcast. I'm sure he's making plenty enough money that he can pay an editor and all that kind of stuff too. But there's a lot of back end.
Jamie, pull that up.
Jamie, that's when this podcast has made it is when I have a homie here.
Yeah.
That we can just say, yo, can you pull up this info, or like whatever it is, or like.
Well, dude, you can get. I mean, just keep doing it. Like this is. I'm super happy to be here because this is in the first iteration, of this like podcast, and like
episode 3,
and like it does have a theme, and I think the fact that everyone wants to be a content creator when they grow up means that hopefully there is like a white space for this podcast.
Yeah.
And we can get more into like more of the questions you have about like, well, what does that actually look like? Because a large part of my career has been working with managers and agents and trying to figure out like, well, what does that dance look like? A big theme I've seen actually is that there's for a lot of the younger creators, a lot of their parents actually manage them.
Yeah,
which is interesting because I mean there's pros and cons that come with that.
Big pros and cons to that.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes,
I've seen. Yeah, and I see. I mean, there's the good in it is that you have someone who knows you that almost always is like looking out for your best intentions. You know.
Arguably, there's not a person that would care about you more in the world than that person. Right.
But it's, just like anything, working with family, it can be hard. And a lot of times, like, if people see things differently, I think, yeah, I have like multiple friends who have parent managers.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's, like conflict that goes in where maybe it's like you want to go in this direction with it and your parents are like, no, but it would be better if you did it this way. And it's like, okay, well, I just want to do it my way because I'm going to stay in love with what I do and I have to stay in love with what I'm doing for this to work, Or it's, I think like what might make it make sense to a lot of people is, I know I had a friend who his parents were piano teachers.
Okay.
And he had a piano teacher that wasn't his parents. And
Got it.
It was just like, because it just doesn't work. You know? Like you sit down, I think that's like really interesting when you see like dads that coach their sons in football or like, sometimes it's just hard to take really specific instruction over and over from your parents, which is like obviously kind of maybe, it's what you do your whole life. And so maybe it's like just like worn out by the time you're like, you get there. I don't know exactly what it is, but I've just seen it cause some like tension or problems. I think it's for most people, I think, especially when you're like a grown adult, it's probably healthier to not have your parents doing it.
That's the tricky thing is because, I mean, at a certain point, it's tough for someone to be your parent and your like business partner. I mean, some people can do it, but the thing about being either a dadager or a momager, what we call them, is that they don't have a lot of reference points because odds are they only have one client and that's their kid. The attention and the care that they're going to give them and their deals is unparalleled because a manager wouldn't be able to have that bandwidth. But it can be difficult when something that's obvious, in my opinion, comes up and then the mom or dad won't either understand it because for them it's completely new and they haven't had any case studies or any other talent where that's been the case for. So it's an interesting dance, for the talent because, like, let's say the talent wants a quote unquote, like industry professional manager who does have 20 other clients and that has a history of, getting them a lot of brand deals and putting them on TV shows. It's a difficult conversation for that creator who's hit it big to then talk to their parents about, hey, I kind of want to be repped at CAA now or UTA or ICM, or I want to go in for a meet with this manager. They reached out to me and they had a lot of good things to say about where they want to take. Like, how do you have that conversation with your parent? Yeah. Right? It's I don't know how to do it.
Right. To like fire your mom or dad or something is like, which is essentially what it would be if you ever to switch is like a tough thing to do. But a lot of times too, you get caught up in that when there is someone that didn't just like fall into it on accident because their kids started taking off. Like there's somebody that's like, they've studied this or they've done it for a while and they know it, I'm sure, better than.
I met with a talent the other day. She got big when she was 11 or 12. She had a few videos that went super viral and now have over 80 million views. And she now hasn't posted in a few months. I think her dad manages her. And she has ideas for what she wants to do, but she hasn't been able to do it. And in my mind, I'm thinking like you need a manager to really come in and really help push you. But at the same time, though, a manager can only babysit to a certain extent. Like if you're an adult, you have to pull yourself out of your bed. You have to figure out a schedule that works, and you have to think of content ideas. Like in order to make it work, you better have a notes section on your phone where every time you get an idea for a video, you're like writing it down. Yeah. Like, okay, when do you edit best? Do you edit better in the morning? Do you edit better at night? Do you have a friend that you can pay super cheap, dollars to who can do your things for free until you get, big enough where you can pay them a full rate? You just got to like make it work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that's interesting. Is there something that you see with a lot of these like big creators right now? Maybe to preface this question a little bit. So I remember reading a book like in like third grade or something, you know, and it was about like the gold rush, and one of like the big things we learned about the gold rush was like in California, you know, is the people that made money weren't the people that made tons of money for the most part, weren't the people coming out to like mine gold, right? They're the people that were sitting around behind providing for all the things that those people needed. They were the ones selling the pickaxes, selling the jeans, you know, for them, like that sort of stuff. Those were the people that like made fortunes for the most part. And then maybe like the 0.1% of the people that came out to mine gold. And I remember like learning that, and it like stuck with me for a long time. And so when I first got into social media, like the social media game, I remember thinking about it in that way, especially when I first came on and I was like, you know, not very big with what I'd been doing. You know, like personally, I remember having this thought when I had like 1,000 subscribers on my channel. I was like, what are the things that these people that are taking off right now, what do they need? Or like, like you were saying earlier, kids nowadays, every single one of them, you know, the number one, not every single one of them, but the number one thing kids want to be is YouTubers. Yeah. You know? And so it's like, what are the things that these successful people that are doing it as a career, what do they need? You know, what are like the gaps that they don't have right now that like another young person could like step into and fill that gap? Because I remember like for me, I started shooting for a lot of YouTubers. Yeah. And it was like, you know, a lot of them don't know how to work a camera. I know how to work a camera. I can come in and work a camera for you, and, you know, even just learn from what you're doing was like a big part of it too. What are some other things you see like that people need? That's a really interesting narrative, or rather like parallel. I mean, this is a weird example, but if you look at, if you look at war, like there's a lot of like steel manufacturers that will they'll be profitable in war. So like I think like if we look at like, not to compare YouTube with war, but anytime there's like this new wave of you know, like event that's happening, you know, there are ways to really kind of take a step back and look at, you know, okay, well, what's going on here, and how can I find an opportunity in it, or like how can I like make the most of it? I think a lot of creators aren't going to know how to edit, how to think of content ideas, how to structure a video, how to come up with a lot of different, you know, like how do you negotiate a brand deal, right? So we can talk more about that. Like if you want to do like YouTube, how about you repurpose your content for Facebook? Well, if you want to monetize on Facebook, it needs to be like at least like 2 minutes. So then, you know, you need to get on their monetization platform. The camera's about to run out, so we're going to take a spicy hot commercial break, and we're going to continue with that. Perfect. Yo, this segment of the podcast is brought to you by my brand new Patreon page. I'm actually super, super, super excited to finally be sharing this with you guys. If you would like to support this podcast and my content in general, this is the absolute best way to do so. My page is set up on patreon.com/Jake Roque. That's JakeRoque, if you hadn't known so already. I'm working really hard to make this page a genuine exchange of value, and I'm setting up the reward tiers to be things that I would actually want from a lot of the creators that I watch and enjoy and would want to support. So they currently include things like a forum for this community to meet other like-minded people, an opportunity to ask guests on my podcast your own personalized questions, and you'll get a shout out every time we do that, a monthly patron-only Google Hangout where we can talk about whatever the heck we want to. It'll be exclusive just to the patrons. There's a weekend getaway to LA, so if you are contributing at a tier for a certain duration of time, we just get to hang out, and I'll bring you on a vacation in LA, and we'll go do fun things here, like go to the beach and go to dinner and have a lovely time. I think that would be so sick. And the one I'm probably the most excited for is I have a couple slots open on this mentorship tier. This is something I really believe in, and I've had many mentors in the past that have given me some of the most valuable experiences and lessons of my entire life. So I'm really looking forward to this part. I can teach you all I know about podcasting, music, content creation, relationships, literally anything I can help you with. Feel free to ask in that time. And something I'd also love to do with this would be to pick a book a month to go through with everyone that's in that tier, and we could pick a book to go through together and just have a discussion of what we learn, kind of like a one-on-one book club for the people that are in that. Anyways, there's all the details for all of this over on patreon.com/Jake Roque. And if you'd like to support the podcast, if you want to hear more podcasts like this is a really, really great way to do so. Are you someone who just doesn't have time to frequently make trips to the grocery store and prepare 3 healthy meals every day that taste good and are good for you? You know, that difficult combo that we're always looking for. Well, welcome to the club. You're basically one of all of us. Catered Fit is this really epic meal prepping service that delivers fresh made meals to your door daily or as frequently as you would like. They have standard paleo and vegetarian options, and their website and app is super easy to use. A few of the delicious meals that they have on the menu for this week specifically include the Farmer's Market omelet with veggies, the spicy chipotle shrimp with kale salad. That sounds super good. And the garlic herb crusted pork loin with apricot glaze and butternut squash pilaf. Guys, there's so many different options. Those are some of the ones I saw that I was like, yo, those look tasty. Every listener of the show gets $25 off their first meal plan with the promo code TJRS, which stands for the Jake Roque Show, if you were wondering. Depending on the plan you get, meals are as low as $7 to $8 each. And one thing I really like about the packaging too is it comes with a printed out label of the macronutrient breakdown. So how many grams of carbs, fats, and proteins are in there. So if you're somebody who likes to track those things, super helpful for that. And right now, the service areas include major cities across California and Florida, I think almost exclusively. So if you're in California and Florida, you're definitely covered. If you're in one of those major cities like LA, San Diego, Miami, Orlando. If you want to see if your town is included in the service areas, go to cateredfit.com. If you're someone who's like overspending on unhealthy food at work, or if you just don't have the time to go and set aside those couple hours it takes every day to make the healthy meals that are good for your body and for your taste buds, I highly recommend Catered Fit. I've had their meals. I really like them. I actually think it's a really competitive price in the meal planning sector of the market. So head over to cateredfit.com and use the promo code TJRS for $25 off your first order, and take a peek at the FAQ tab on their website for any more info. But yeah, I feel like I've probably said this on the podcast before, but I feel like it's just good info for the listener to know when I like interject to like cut someone off. Commercial break, here we go.
Oh yeah.
We have, currently, if you're just listening to this, there's a video portion of this podcast on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a video portion.
Hello, everyone.
But my beautiful Sony A7 III has a 30-minute record limit. So that's why we squeeze in those commercial breaks every 30 minutes.
Well, this will be good because then when you get sponsors, they'll actually need to be commercials, but then you'll have a better camera and you won't need.
For now, we're just going to be advertising whatever the frick I can think of to advertise. So
yeah, that's good.
But yeah, so you were saying. Things.
I just love that analogy you were talking about, and like to put together a podcast like this that could help all those younger creators or soon to be creators kind of put together like those tools. I think that could be a really helpful thing, like regardless of whether or not this takes off, if you get some viewers that really hone in on this, and then this is what helps them get to the next level and actually create. The exciting thing is like you're on this journey right now. Like you're in LA, you've made the move here. You literally live like within a few miles of all these YouTubers right here. Like you probably see them when you're like outside getting coffee or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys are all here.
Right.
The MCNs or the social content, companies like Fullscreen, like we're all here. This is the entertainment industry. So, if you're listening to this and you don't live here yet, or you're not a creator yet, but you want to be, there's so many things that we can say that Jake will probably address in this podcast that will be extremely helpful. There's a lot that I can say too. I feel like, like when you're in it, it's hard to take a step back and just be like, wow, what do I even want to say here? But ultimately, finding what you actually love to the point where if you needed to do that thing every day, like what could you do every day to the point where it would not feel like a job? Like that's what you need to do. If you're going to start creating content and then it's going to feel like a drag, or then it's going to be a recipe for not succeeding. Gamers, if you look at Twitch right now, I mean, there's gamers that will stream for 8 hours a day just playing video games. And the big ones, like if you look at Ninja or like Tfue or like Nick Merckx, like those guys, they're making good money, but they're literally doing that thing they're like a 40-hour week. Like they'll stream for 30 hours a week.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Yeah, if not some of them more,
some of them more.
There's guys that So I recently have I didn't play a lot of
video games. Are you also a Twitch streamer?
No, I haven't started Twitch streaming. But like a lot of my buddies, well, they were on the Fortnite craze for a while. So I remember I played with them a little bit because one of my roommates had a system.
Nice.
And then when I moved in here, my roommates also had an Xbox and a PS4. So I started playing Apex.
Yeah, Apex Legends.
Yeah, which is super fun. But there's guys that I've seen on there that they're putting out videos every single day, if not 2 or 3 on YouTube, and they're streaming, And, these guys are probably spending 12 hours a day working on it, but they're making good money and they get to play video games all day and they're psyched on it,
Yeah. And the biggest thing is that if you want to do that and make money, you need to be realistic and know that it's not going to happen in 6 months or 1 year. Those guys didn't, if you look at Turner, he didn't get big. Well, he did get big pretty quickly, but he was doing it for a few years.
Right.
He wasn't.
And that's a big thing too. People a lot of times they work on they're doing their thing for 5 or 6 years, and then they blow up in 2 months, and everyone's like, "Wow, they came out of nowhere." But it's no, they were on the grind, perfecting what they do for 4 years, 5 years before it really took off, and that's why it took off, because they got so good at it.
Yeah, there are so many examples of people that found what they do best and they just became, they honed in on it. So Brandon Armstrong he got big on Vine and now he has YouTube and Instagram, and we find him a lot of brand deals over at Fullscreen. He is known as the best NBA player impersonator ever. So he'll take LeBron James and he'll study LeBron's movements, and then he'll imitate him in a really funny way. And he would do Vines and he'd post those on Instagram. And he's the best in the world. You take any player, take Kevin Durant, he knows how to imitate him. That's a weird little niche.
Right.
But he started doing that when he was really young. He had no intention of just blowing up. But then when Vine came along, he decided to do it. And now he has a whole career where he's able to host certain events and you get brand deals. Right. And I think collabing is also we can't do this podcast without talking about collabing.
Right.
If you want to really grow and learn, not only will it help cross-pollinate your audiences, and this podcast is a great way to have people on and talk to them.
Totally.
You also then will learn from them, how do you edit? Well, how do you structure your videos?
Yeah, even just get to sit behind people. Music is a big place for me when I get to sit and record with someone else, or whether I'm running the session or they're running the session, I get to watch their workflow, how they go about it. You learn these secret little tricks. Yeah. So we kind of a fun little backstory for those that don't know. We met at a Bible study. Yeah. Years ago at Tyler Ward's house.
Oh yeah.
And I remember that was a big thing. When I sat behind him and watched him record a guitar part, and he recorded it twice, and then took 2 separate guitar tracks and panned one all the way left and panned one all the way right, which if you ever are recording acoustics and vocals, kids, do this. It's going to blow your mind. You record the same guitar part twice, pan one all the way right, one all the way left. You put your voice right down the middle. And it has such this full, rich sound that I'd been looking for years, that I'd heard other people putting out music. And I was like, gosh, what's the secret? And I watched them do it once, and then I came back to my own stuff. I was like, oh gosh, it sounds so much better now. And there's so many, was probably the first thing I learned that, but there's so many things when you sit and watch someone record or edit a video or whatever it is, where you're oh wow, that would increase my workflow so fast. And we all learn these little tricks that we then can share with people when we collaborate and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's a great example. I'm sure there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, that was 4 years ago. I remember that we were in his studio in the backyard, and it was kind of similar to this a little bit, but he moved to Nashville now, right?
Yeah.
He's in Nashville.
Yeah. I'm going to see him October 1st.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, he's got the best energy. He's so positive.
So great.
Dude. He's awesome. Shout out to Tyler.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, that's funny.
With that too, what are some other, where are places where you think, one where people can meet people to collaborate with, or how does somebody go about even making those connections? And then how do they approach that collaboration once they approach someone for that,
Yeah, man, you're asking all the good questions.
Yeah.
So if you don't live in LA or New York or first off, if you live in a big city, do some digging and find out what creators live in your city. Start if you're younger and you haven't yet used Google Docs, go on your Gmail account, go to the Google Drive section, create a Google Sheet, and it's a great place for you to put in a list of people you find that you want to like reach out to. I'm a proponent of just taking the first step. Like you're not going to get, the sports analogy is you're not going to get on base unless you swing and hit the ball. So like, you know, in this case, like reach out to them and like ask them. Even if they're like a little bit bigger than you, like you have nothing to lose. Let's reach out and say, hey, I love your content. I look up to you. Like we're in the same town. If you're ever willing to like collaborate or get together for coffee, like I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. They're probably going to ignore it or not ever see it. But the thing is, if you do that 10 times and you get one person who's willing to, you know, talk to you, then that's awesome. If they're at your level and you're both kind of at the same start in your career, then you might have a better success rate. But ultimately, like if you're in a big city, I would definitely start there and just go on Instagram, go on YouTube and just try to do some digging for who's in your city. If conventions are a really interesting place to meet people as well. I know Playlist and like VidCon. So I know Corinna actually met, I think David at like a Playlist like 5 years ago or something. And that's happened a lot where you know, creators can go and meet other people trying to do what they're doing. And
I've made a lot of good friends through like VidCon's really the only one I've been. Well, VidCon and VidSummit actually.
Oh, I never been to VidSummit.
VidSummit's it's a good one. It's a totally different angle.
Really?
Yeah. It's
where is that one?
It's near LAX. It's in LA.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah, it's at a hotel near LAX, and it is expensive. I went last year. I like shot photos I like volunteered to like shoot photos. I just like reached out. This is like a good thing. Just whenever you want something, you don't want to pay volunteer. For it. Yeah, just see if you can hit some, like do some digging on the emails. I think it's like $800 for a ticket, and me and my buddy wanted to go. And he shoots photos too, and I just reached out and I found an email of whoever. I don't even remember who it was, but I just shot it over someone who's, you know, managing some of the stuff. I was like, hey, I do event photography and shoot weddings and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you guys need photos for your whatever. And, you know, if you guys probably have people hired, but if you need some more photographers, like I'd love to come shoot and just get to be there, you know? And then I ended up just taking some photos and they're like, yeah, just give us the raws right away. So I'd go and I'd sit they're like, whichever thing you want to go to it, take some photos. And then when you're done, you know, every few sessions that you go to, bring your SD card back. We'll take the photos. We'll post them on socials, whatever. And I was like, cool. Like, and I just, you know, and then it kind of gave me an excuse. And then I had more of an angle to even like talk to some of the people that were speaking or creating or whatever it was, you know, like the creators that were there. Cause it was like, I was working the event, you know, and just like had a purpose and then, yeah, was there. But that's a really good one to go to. VidCon's a great one to go to.
Yeah, I think that is actually really, really, you know, valuable advice. Just like find out what you do best and then offer that service to other people.
Right.
Like the obvious one is like if you're a great photographer or a great DP or you know, you're a really good editor.
Or even if you're not that great at it, you know, if you're okay at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you're not that bad where they can't even use it.
You gotta be like good enough. But if you're offering for free, there's like a lot of grace too, you know?
There's a lot of grace in that. I mean, free is free. So, but I know so many people that have got their foot in the door by asking and saying, hey, can I like do this for you? Or like, do you need help with stuff? Or, I mean, even people that were other people's like assistants, like a lot of times that they didn't become their assistant to get, you know, famous, but that does happen sometimes where just by virtue of being around someone every day and helping with their life, now they're in their content and then they become a fan favorite and then they get incorporated into like a format, like a series regular. And it's like,
totally.
Okay, well that you can't plan that. You just have to really put yourself out there.
Right.
But
there's a combination of like, you know, being able to put yourself in those positions like for something good to happen, right? You know, because that's a big thing. Even probably a lot of people that are listening to this. For me, I was shot for a lot of different YouTubers, like a lot of different people. But the more when I was like a series regular was in like Molly Burke's, a lot of her content. I was shooting a lot for her, and kind of like, you know, her fans got to know me. And then a lot of them hopped ship over, even when I wasn't even posting, like for a good period of time when I wasn't posting very consistently on my channel. Yeah. A bunch of people were coming over and subscribing and just being like, hey, you know, we like you from what we've seen over there. So we're going to be here, you know. And it's like, that wasn't, for me, it was like, you know, I didn't see that coming necessarily, but it's like, if you're around the right people and you're like helping people out, you know, like a lot of the like genuine like natural exposure is gonna, you know, stuff's gonna come that way. And whether it's specific whether it's like specifically a collaboration or if it's even more so, because we did a couple like collaboration type videos where I was like in them. And then sometimes it's just like being around, even if it's not like an explicit collaboration, but it's just like, you're linked in the description for having shot something, right? Like that's a good place of like,
that's a big one.
Yeah. Like you just, you're not even in the content, but it's just like shot by blah, 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 and if you can manage to be helpful in some sort of way, whether it's with video or whatever type of content, like contribution you can give to somebody editing or anything else like that, you can kind of like get your foot in the door that way.
Yeah. I mean, so to that point, there's been a few times when I've been helpful on sets or I've taken pictures, and then if the creator if they just like ended up tagging me in it, then it's like, whoa, now I have 500 more followers or something. And I don't know any of those people. And it's weird for someone who's not a creator to have it happen, but like it will happen if you are as helpful as you can be. And you're looking for those opportunities in order to like add value.
That's it too. It will happen if you have to be there for like the right reasons, and you have to be selfless. You can't come into something thinking about you, especially if you're coming into someone else's production. You have to be like, what can I do coming into this to make this as easy as possible for you, to make this like, how can I be the most help to what you're doing? And you like, if you ever come into someone else's thing and try and make it about you, like it's going to be over really quick.
No go. No go. I mean,
like coming in with like epically high levels of selflessness and like humility, and not trying to.
Yeah, you need to really.
Because I've seen the other end of that too, and it's like, oh, come on, like we don't have time for this.
It's just cringeworthy. It's like so cringy. You need to be self-aware enough to know that it's not 100%. About you. Like if you ever are lucky enough to work for someone who's they've already put in the years and they're already established, and and there's an element of luck. I mean, it's hard work and it's luck. There's a lot of things that need to come together for you to get a lot of followers. But if you're in a position where your job is to start helping them and help them shoot content, like you need to ultimately like take their career as if it was your own, because that's how they take it, and if they're going to trust you, then you cannot take that lightly at all. There's a handful of really big YouTubers right now that are looking for editors and even like just personal assistants,
right? And
they're very weary of who they're going to let in their life. Not because they're just trying to be hard, but like they've been burned in the past, and like they really
finding both of those things, personal assistants and editors, is really tough.
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, they're not just out there all over the place. Like,
right.
But if you do want to get in this space, like I would hesitant to have anyone be like, okay, well, I need to go be an assistant to them in order to become famous myself, because that's not the way to go.
But less of that, but more of
like
an
learning
angle
the craft.
Yes. It's because it's less about that. Because honestly, too, no one really, to be frank, nobody really cares that much if you're someone's personal assistant. Like, nobody really cares.
Right.
Yeah, to be super frank about it, and maybe people will. I don't know. Maybe if you're in the content, who knows? But like, I would figure most people don't really care. Especially because most people's personal assistants aren't going to be a part of what the videos that they're making. But at the same time, it's not about that. It's a lot more about getting to see how people do what they do. That part of it is invaluable.
Yeah, and like that apprenticeship is what I would call it. That's that art form we've lost in the, like we're in 2019 right now. Like if you look at 100 years ago and then all the years before that, that was how you learned. Like people didn't always go to college and then start a job. Like they would look at what their dad did or their parents or their mom, and then their family would take them under their wing. And in order to become really good at something, you had to watch someone else do it for years and years and years. So,
which is the best way to learn something,
the absolute best way. Like, for example, you learning that little tidbit from Tyler Ward,
right? Like
there's that is so valuable that people might not be able to learn in college. But if you sit behind him for, a month, that might be, like equivalent of 2 years in college. Like,
yeah. Totally.
And you can't necessarily pay for that, but if you are willing to help him out, you might be fortunate enough to learn from these people that have done it. We're in a really interesting time in YouTube because we're like over 10 years in now of having this platform, and the first generation has come, and they're still here, but some of them have already exited, and it's really cool to see like each iteration and what that looks like. I think it's becoming more saturated with people that want to do it, but that doesn't mean it's impossible at all, because if you're creating good content that people want to consume and want to watch, then you're gonna hopefully be able to find a home for that content, because people need to be entertained. Like there's so much crap in the world, and like life is hard. Like I'm a big proponent of just the concept that life is difficult, and you need to really strive for, in order to make your situation as good as you can make it. I think that a lot of people today are kind of coddled, and they like have this entitlement. And look, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. Like I had to work really hard, and I know that I was fortunate in my own ways that I was fortunate. But just the concept of like doing this job and creating content that people want to consume, it's exciting, because if there's a place for your content, then hopefully you can find it, and then you make a living on it. Like 20 years ago, people for the most part were excited to have a job, and if they didn't like the job, it was okay. It was a job. They're making money. Now today, if we're not fulfilled and in love with our jobs, then it's almost like this like crisis. And in my mind, it's like we are so blessed to be living today where there are so many different options that you can make work, that when I hear people complain about things, I'm almost like, you've been trying for how long? You've been trying for 2 months? Like look at this person over here. They just hit it after 6 years,
right?
Or 10 years. Like it takes hard work, and I think people expect to become overnight sensations when even the people that are making tons of money, like they are putting so much pressure on themselves, each video, each Instagram post, and a lot of times they'll burn out and just need to take a month off, which I'm a huge proponent of. I think we were made, and I know I'm talking about so many different things right now, but we were made to like work and then rest.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at other countries, they haven't always been that way. I think in Russia, like 50 years ago, during like the gulags, which was horrible, or maybe more like 70 years ago now, they didn't rest in Russia. They would work 7 days a week.
Right.
And I just don't think that's healthy for a society. But I don't know how we're talking about that when I was talking about YouTube.
No, no. So, I mean, I think too, in the concept of like burnout on YouTube too, I think you see people, especially in the daily vlogger sphere, but a lot of different content creators, a lot of times they're like, they burn out, or they're like, I need to step back and take a break. And I think that you have to be able to balance that hustle and set up your framework to be something that you can maintain consistently. So if you're like, that's something I'm thinking about right now on this podcast, because right now I'm psyched on it. Yeah. And I'm like, I could do 3 of these a week. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Like I could sit down with somebody, talk, right when we finish up, roll it back, sit there for 6 hours, edit, get all the, promo, whatever, get the post together, chop it up, get the clips, and post it, the next day, maybe 2 days later, but, I'm like, cause I'm like there psyched on it now, but I'm also trying to think too, like what's something that would be sustainable that's like, can be consistent, so that I can, cause consistency is a huge part of like the success formula on YouTube. Yeah. And so it's like being logical and being able to step back for a second when you're doing something and be like, how can I frame this to be something I can be consistent with, instead of people come into something, they love it and they're hyped on it, and they like kind of like overcommit. I'm going to post daily. I'm going to post 5 days a week. I'm going to post whatever. And then 6 months in, they're like, this is torture. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you want to under promise and over deliver to your fans, or to people that are, engaged with you. So that's good. That's a good saying for like business. It's a good saying for YouTube. But it's good to find, that balance. So question for you.
All right.
Where, like what are some of your goals here in the next like 6 months or 12 months for your career? Like what are you trying to build ultimately?
By a year from basically the beginning of August, I want to be doing my online content full time. Got it. Mainly being this music and this podcast. Okay. And then there's maybe one other avenue of like content creation I'd like to move down in the future. That's to kind of preview what I'm hoping it to be. I just want to be able to I want to take a portion of my income. Yep. And do nice things for people. Nice. And have that and that's the whole podcast, or that's the whole show. You know? So it's like once a week or maybe once a month, whatever it is. I want to be able to take like a portion of what I make and find some like nice way to do something good for somebody, and then also like invite people to do that with me, so that we could like maybe, you know, as like if it were to be something to grow to be at a position when there's like a natural disaster in the world, to where it's like, okay, now we have like this amount of money set aside to like grab 2 people, fly somewhere, and just like help people, because like other people have committed to be like, yo, like I want it to be pretty simple too, you know, like, and people are like, I don't know, like I literally want the purpose to be like, I want to just take my money and help people, and in a way that is selfless, I think, genuinely, but also because it's like I like to do it, you know, in a way it's because I like to do it, because I want to do it, you know, like in a way I think it's like, you know, people look at like people that might do something like that, you know, and I think they would think like, wow, it's like so nice of them to, you know, whatever. Like you see somebody like Mr. Beast.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Mr. Beast.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of a different angle for sure,
things.
you know, but he's just like, yeah, I just, you know, I like to give people stuff and help people, you know, and it's like, so like, I don't know, like I'm nice, but also I like to do it. It's for me too, and I think there is like an element of that that's real, that you would be like, you know, it's like maybe silly to ignore, but for me, it's like, yo, I think it would be super fun to like be able to see someone that's like, you know, I think it'd be fun, and I think like even beyond fun, like meaningful and enjoyable to be able to just like see someone that needs help and be like, yo, like, I got you, I can help you, or like to have a community of people that can do that. If it's not just a person, it's like something goes really wrong somewhere, you know, like a natural disaster, like a shooting, like whatever it is, and to be in a position and like have this team to be able to go in and like, you know, utilize the internet. I feel like a lot of times too, people talk about like, you know, there's all this, there's bad news out there, you know, it's all you see is like negative stuff, and all you see is like whatever it is. And I think that, you know, there's an element of that that's true, because like, you know, bad news makes headlines and whatever it is. But I also think too that the internet could totally be leveraged in a way to where it's like to make good things like just as relevant, you know, to be able to have this like, if you got a group of like 1,000 people that are like, yo, we're going to give $1 a week to just like help.
And you give one person $1,000 a week.
Yeah. You know, and if it's like something as simple as like somebody that they get in a car accident and they just like really need a new car. And it's like, yo, like I can get you this car. It's not a nice car, but I can, you know, it's going to like get you can continue with your life, or, you know, whatever it is. People that like have medical bills for
and you have a list of people that are like submitting what they have and what they need help with. That maybe people submitting, or even like what I'd like it to be eventually is kind of have like this community that is together, that is like we can all come in and someone can just like throw out an idea, and if everyone's like, yeah, like that seems like a worthwhile thing, like we want to help people in that way, then it's like, cool, like I'm going to take some time and maybe get a couple people that can help, depending on what it is, and we'll facilitate a way, and let's like have a 2-way conversation about how we think we can most efficiently help this problem, and then we'll get out there and do it, you know? And I think there's a lot of things too that need help, but they also just need people to be aware that it's an issue, you know? I think like maybe like human trafficking is like a place where that's legit, that's
like a legit concern, you know?
I'm really passionate
in
about
LA
stopping that.
And
that's brutal.
Right. And I think like that sort of stuff too is something that, you know, maybe the money's part of the help, but I think part of the help too could be like getting it on the radar of people that like, yo, this is a problem, and it's not just something that's happening, you know, in other countries that you see in a movie like Taken or whatever it is, but like it's like, no, like this stuff happens in our backyard here in LA. This stuff happens like
at our big airports, LAX, Miami. That stuff happens right under our nose.
Right,
like I've you know, listened to Christine King at A21.
Shout out to A21.
Yeah, big shout out to them. And even here in LA, there's a few groups where they actually are looking for guys to come at night as they're reaching out to some of the young women and kind of offering them a way out, and you know, having the young men be essentially security for them when they go out at 2 a.m, 3 a.m. So I'm on the I need to eventually, I think I'm on the list to volunteer, but but that topic is huge, and just like that element of doing good in the world that you just talked about with creating a community is a way to like leverage the internet in a way that we weren't able to, you know, 20 years ago or so, or however long it's been around now.
Right.
That's exciting.
So
dude, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Like that could be really big. I mean, Mr. Beast, the model is definitely there.
Right.
I mean, He's interesting. I think he got to 200,000 subs on an iPhone 5 or so.
Right. And also for people to know, I thought of him earlier too when we were talking about the time thing. He, 200,000 subscribers on an iPhone 5 over the span of like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And then blew up, and all of a sudden Mr. Beast blows up out of nowhere. But it's like, no. He was on a grind for a long time.
He was on a grind
before anybody knew who he was. You know?
If you're listening to this and you don't know who he is, just like do a YouTube search of Mr. Beast.
Yeah. He's super fun,
super funny,
interesting, yeah.
humble. He has this other. I have a friend.
He actually bought Vid Summit.
Did he really?
Recently too, yeah. Yeah. So he
for how much?
invested in it or bought it.
He probably invested.
I don't know, man, but I think he bought it straight out from Daryl Eves.
Really?
And yeah, they even if you think about something that charges $800,
yeah,
you get even
I think 1,000
I saw an email
people
for
that
show
actually because he was a speaker at this convention close to LAX. I forget what it was called, but it might have been Vid Summit.
It was Vid Summit. So yeah, even there's a lot of money in those things for sure.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So
so we're kind of moving around a couple different tangents here,
I mean,
love it.
hopefully people enjoy what we're talking about if they're still listening. But I have a friend who saw what Mr. Beast was doing, and he modeled himself after Mr. Beast, and now he's known as the Twitter philanthropist. And what he does is he takes people that are in need and then he like gives them money.
Amazing.
He doesn't really rally a community and go out and do it with his fans. But he's an example of someone who saw something that works and then decided to really pounce on it. And he went from, I think, 5 or 10K on Twitter to over 500K on Twitter.
Okay, wow.
in just a couple of months. Now, granted, he has like the money to really.
And he has the money to just be
like he's giving people like Bitcoins and like.
Oh wow! Yeah, that's like 10 grand or whatever.
Yeah, it's like 11 grand right now.
Crazy, bro. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
I think we need a commercial break.
Commercial break. Here's a spicy commercial for you.
Love it.
Yo, this ad is going to be super short because this podcast is long and full of breaks already, but I'm on Instagram. If you want to be friends and talk and ask me any questions, shoot me a DM, whatever it is. You can find me on Instagram at Jake Roque Music, Jake, ROQUE, Music, and we can connect there. Let's finish up the show. For now, I'm just like, screw it. I'm just going to record and it's going to come together. And the first episodes aren't perfect and who cares, yeah?
I mean, that's half the battle is just getting out of bed and doing it.
Right.
Like it's like when you're going to the gym, just half the battle is getting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not half, maybe 10%.
I mean, I would say I would argue more than half.
Wow.
It's like getting out of your bed and just strapping on your shoes and getting there. Because once you do the first rep, the rest of it's easy.
Yeah.
Everything else is super easy. It's like setting aside the time and showing up and getting there. And
so are you a morning or a night workout person?
I'm actually.
Are we back?
We're back.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
It's just gonna be back.
Love it.
It depends. I like to work out in the morning. I think it's maybe like a better way to go about it. I'm a personal trainer. So I've been personal training for the past 8 or 9 months or so.
Dude, that's awesome.
I feel like it's been like a while since I caught up there. But so I've been doing that. And honestly, for me, it's like whenever I'm just going to be at the gym. So like right now, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday nights, I usually work. And then Monday, Wednesday during the day I work. So I try to throw my workouts in around that.
Yeah.
If I didn't do that, just because I don't want to drive back and forth to the gym multiple times a day.
Yeah, no, I get it.
If I didn't do that, I would love to be like a Monday through, or maybe like a Sunday through Thursday, Sunday through Friday morning workout.
Yep.
Like I think is a good way to go about it. Because I'm just big on like routine. I find I'm happiest when I'm functioning inside of a routine. Yeah. And when I let my like routine drop off, I like get sad, and and I think that some people are wired different ways and some people need, different things. I have a really big predisposition towards like adventure and like lack of routine. And I think that's why routine is so profound for me, because like it's not what comes naturally to me in a way.
Got it. So routine doesn't come naturally to you, but you're self-aware enough to know that you need it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. It's not my natural instincts, but it is like, that being said, it's like so good for me because I don't do it normally. Yeah.
That's so interesting because you know that you need it, but it's not come natural. Like I need routine, and I'm happier in routine for sure. But I don't like, so I'm on a few dating profiles right now, and I'm you know, single and trying to eventually find a girlfriend and then a wife and a family and all that stuff.
Right.
Because I'm 31 now, and you know, I want that. But
your biological clock is ticking.
Yeah. As
kidding.
I'm on, sorry, I need to tie that in here. So as I'm on these dating apps, a lot of the women I'm seeing in their profiles, it's all about like they love adventure, they love travel, they want a guy that can make them laugh and can do all these things. And spontaneous. And here I am working 12 hours a day.
People probably don't really want that.
I'm like, do you really want spontaneous every day? Like,
they think they want that because like the rom-com movies.
It sounds good too.
Yeah, but when you're with someone like that, you're like, this is kind of stressful and exhausting. And that comes from like I'm more that person. Yeah. And like naturally, I think, and there are definitely pros and cons to it, but I think it's, you know, a lot of women are more inclined to be attracted to someone who is like consistent and stable and like
steady Eddie is what one of the pastors calls them.
Yeah, and maybe attracted to is maybe not the right word, because I think people are. I think, you know, a lot of times girls are attracted, like the common, maybe like the stereotype, right? Yeah. Which I think is like based in some truth. Is like the like.
It usually is based.
You
in
want
some
the
truth.
bad boy that's like the, you know, that's all, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. You know, or whether it's the bad boy, whether it's like someone that's like dangerous and adventurous and blah blah blah. But it's like really what is probably would be good, like, you know, 6 months in, a year in, 6 years in, you know, is someone that's just gonna be like a good partner. You know, yeah,
that's
like a
the
good
thing.
teammate.
That's the thing, is like the media doesn't do a good job portraying what a real successful marriage should look like. Like they're not going to make for a great movie. Like a great marriage is somewhat boring.
Or a perfect like Instagram.
Oh gosh,
newsfeed. You know?
Like, no, I know. Well, we're trained to like look at things that kind of give us a dopamine hit, and like what that means is something new or something crazy, or like how is this Instagram caption or feed or picture gonna, you know, zap you, like get your attention, right? Right. But then if you look at like what real life entails, it's, you know, let's say fast forward to when we're 45 and we have kids and a wife or whatnot, like it's going to be like, hey, honey, like who's going to pick up the kids on Thursday? Like, what are we doing for dinner tonight? So-and-so went to the doctor. Are they okay? Did you get their medicine? Like, it's a lot of teammate. Like, they're your co-captain. Right. It's not always this like, oh my gosh, I feel so in love with you. It's so romantic all the time. Like
you need a good partner.
You need a good partner, a good teammate. And like these movies and our culture does not train us to look for a good partner. It trains us to look for what makes you feel good. Right. And that's a huge disservice, because it sets people up for divorce, to be quite honest, in my opinion. Yeah. And when I look at the people that have the best, and I know this isn't like a dating relationship podcast.
Dude, we can talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about.
This is just a crazy topic. Like, I'm just hyper aware that real life entails so much more practicality. Yes. And a lot of my mentors that I've been fortunate enough to really talk to that have good marriages, they will all say like, you need to look for someone who is going to be able to compromise and going to be able to really be a good co-captain like with you.
And conflict resolution.
Resolution is huge.
Oh gosh, that's the biggest part.
Have you had a lot of conflict in your life, or
so much conflict? No, I think you have to be able to like. I think one of the biggest things for relationships to work long term is people have to be able to like pull their emotions back, you know, be able to like get a handle of your emotions and be able to sit and talk with someone and be like, okay, like here's what happened. Yeah. Maybe not even pull your emotions out of it, because I think it's important to like be like, you did this and it made me feel this way, you know, or like I did this and did it make you feel like something? I feel like there's some disconnect, you know, like being able to like understand each other and being able to do those things like maturely and calmly and like have those conversations. And when there's like a lack of that, in relationships, things just like fall apart. And also being able to initiate those conversations. Because I think too, when people just avoid the conflict, like, you know, people just get really resentful and they get so like, you know, all of a sudden people are, you know, when someone is angry at you and you don't know why, that's a tough thing. All right. Because if someone's upset with you and they're being like passive aggressive or whatever it is, because like there's some sort of resentment over something, it's like, that's not fair to the other person, because they, you know, you can't fix something if you don't know what's wrong. But like, if you can tell me what the problem, and this is maybe more of like the classic guy, like just tell me what the problem is and I'll fix it, you know? But I think, you know, there's an element of truth, like on both sides. You have to be able to go to the other person and say like, hey, if something's wrong, you got to be able to talk. That's not a guy or girl thing. You know, if something's wrong, you got to be able to come to the other person and be like, hey, this is a problem, and we got to be able to talk it through and resolve it.
And communicating is hard because you have to be vulnerable and you have to really open your heart up if you want to effectively, you know, meet them where they're at and allow yourself to be met where you're at. And it's not something, you know, and this is a tie into what we're talking about right now, but in this day and age of social media, like we're becoming more and more inclined to not be able to have those long, focused, intentional conversations because we're on our phones for 4 hours a day, right? Like our attention, that's not helping for people with like, you know, ADHD. And I think that started with Vine. I mean, I had like RIP Vine, but I was addicted to that. And, you know, I'd go to bed at 11 and then it'd be like 2 a.m. and I just spent 3 hours on Vine. And it was so much fun, but, you know, then it trained me to not be able to focus on sitcoms as much. Like I would watch a thing with my roommate back in 10 or 11, and like it was weird. Even after a few months of watching Vine, I started to watch TV and not have the attention span. And I'm like one generation. That was like a few months. Like imagine what our grandkids are going to be like dealing with. Yeah. Right. Like it's
I
crazy.
think there's also this resurgence in kind of like I think culture is like a pendulum in a lot of ways, and I think this goes for like politics. I think this goes for like a lot of different things.
Modesty or fashion. Go back and forth.
Yeah. I think
music.
Yeah. The concept of like, right, because for a minute we were accustomed to this longer forms of content, right? Where we're watching like TV shows and stuff. Yeah. And then there was this swing towards like Vine, and everyone's like this 6-second, like just give me that short punch, you know, whatever it is, maybe, you know, that 6-second video or maybe 15-second videos on Instagram, whatever it was. And then I think you're seeing this shift, this swing back in this past couple years of people to, like we were talking about, the Joe Rogans, or like
Bernie Sanders was on Joe Rogan.
Bernie Sanders, that was super, super interesting, and it's like helpful. This long form sort of discussion. Andrew Yang was on. I think every presidential candidate, high key, I think every presidential candidate should be required to go on Joe Rogan and a long form talk out your positions, because it's really interesting too. I'm someone like. You know, in a political sense, I feel like I'm totally comfortable to say like I'm pretty center-ish, but I like have a lot of like conservative and like libertarian specific ideals. I have some more like what would be considered like liberal ideals that I think are like pretty spot on, you know? And so I'm like somewhere in this weird middle there. And I think that I'm there because when you like really get to hear out people on both sides, it's hard to like if you're, I'll say this comfortably.
No, say it.
If you're someone who's like very strongly on one side of the political spectrum, in my opinion, you're not listening. You're not listening to the other side because, you know, and I think people can have different reasons for believing different things or whatever it is. And I think like if you're someone who's like, okay, a lot of people are one issue voters, right? So
like abortion.
Abortion's the classic one. I'm going to vote for someone that's pro-abortion. I'm going to vote for someone who's anti-abortion, you know? And that's like, that's all, you know, people will vote on. And I get that, you know, like people have their things, whatever's important to people, like that's okay. But I think as far as like conversationally, maybe not when it comes to like voting, if you're someone who's like, I'm 100%, I think everything Donald Trump does is right. Or I think everything Donald Trump does is wrong, you know, or like that kind of thing. It's like, you know, if you're not able to maybe again like pull your emotions out of it and just like hear people out or like even hear, you know, or separate the person from it if you're like emotionally attached and like look at people's positions and like honestly listen to people, it's hard to be like one side is totally right, you know?
Yeah, for the people who become so extreme, usually I found is that they get some of their identity in that belief. And as soon as you attach your identity to either a tribe or like a sports team or whatnot, then that can become a really dangerous place to be because then you're not open to critical thinking to an extent because you're fully bought into that quote unquote like way of life, right? And that's not healthy. I'm similar to you in that I'm more in the middle. I'm a registered libertarian.
Okay. Yeah.
But I always say that I'm in the middle. I think that in order to really, you know, think critically about these issues, you do need to hear both sides. And and podcasts are the great way to do that. That was a good point about how like we had Vine and now we're back to 3-hour podcasts, and it's like it is a weird place.
And I watch them all the way through, and so do a heck of a lot of other people.
They do.
Too, you know?
I mean, it might take me 3 gym sessions, but I'll get through them.
Right. Yeah.
Especially if it's something that's interesting. But I think when it comes to the political thing, we're in a really weird place in our history where I feel like the right is so far to the right and the left is even more far to the left. There's a lot at stake, and because there's a lot at stake, there's more and more people coming out that are really passionate. Because we have a president who was a TV show host, and he's weird because he has his own money and is not beholden to any one party to an extent. So it's just a weird time. But have you? This is random. Do you think that aliens exist or no?
Oh man, because I think here's my honest answer is I think that
I mean, they 100% exist. I'm just going to say it. I'm so convinced.
So I think that it's hard for, like, I wouldn't really operate from a place where I think that, like, aliens exist.
Yeah.
I think that, like...
It doesn't change our daily life.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that I certainly don't know for sure if aliens exist, and I certainly don't know for sure that they don't exist. Yeah. Right? That's kind of like where I would position my like viewpoint. Like, and I'd say that, like, if you were to look at it like probability wise, like I would lean towards, gosh, I don't know. I wouldn't say that I'm like 100% like I think aliens exist by any means. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on it, but I think that it's, I guess what I will say is I think that it's very possible.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's possible.
If not probable.
So Bob Lazar was on Implausible. What's that podcast with Logan Paul?
Impulsive.
Impulsive. Yeah, that's it. So Bob Lazar had pictures of these aliens and all these crazy stories. But I just hear like a lot of people talking about that all the time. So I was just curious what your thoughts were.
That's a funny question.
But I wonder
it is interesting. It's like an interesting like thought, because I feel like I've watched a couple people talk about, I don't think that, I think like a lot of the UFO thing is like
a hoax.
BS. Yeah.
I think
remember, were you you were around in LA when Elon Musk launched that.
Oh yeah. Put a Tesla in space.
No, not when he put the Tesla in space. There was another time. It was back. Did you ever come to the Silver Lake house when I lived at the Silver Lake house? And like we threw like a couple parties.
Maybe once at a barbecue.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
I remember back when I was there, so maybe it was probably like a year and a half ago or so. Okay. There was like Elon launched something into the sky, and I remember everyone was like crying UFOs and like blah blah. And I think that like a lot of times if somebody were to see something like that like independently, they're gonna think like aliens and blah blah. And I think a lot of times like there's an explanation for it, like I don't know if I think that aliens probably have never visited Earth. I think if there are aliens out there, they're like are probably on their own planet. Like, I wonder if there's aliens out there, somewhere really, 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 really far away, probably.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wonder if we'll ever know in our lifetime, because I know that the government knows one way or the other to an extent. They might not know if they don't, but they might know if they do.
So you think the government? I
think in our lifetime we'll find out more.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
That's probably true.
I think if they exist, we'll find out more.
Yeah, I don't think that the government has like made contact with aliens.
You don't?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. Because how would you communicate if you can't speak another? I mean, there's ways, I guess, but that's a bizarre one.
Yeah, that's we could go down the road for a while, but
I know.
It's an interesting thought exercise even,
Eventually, I'm down to do an episode about like dating and relationships.
We'll do dating and aliens is what
dating
we're
and aliens.
Dating aliens. Dating and aliens. Hopefully not dating aliens. Who knows?
There's a lot to talk to about that one. Yeah, I don't know.
Amazing. Maybe to move towards wrapping this up here.
Yeah.
If I were to have... there's to kind of pull it away from some of this other stuff here. I have this list of kind of interesting, more personal questions. I might roll off maybe one or two of those in a quick
speed fire
in a quicker format. Questions for the podcast. Note on my phone. Let's see.
I love that. I love the notes file.
Ooh, I love this question. It's so fun. Okay. If you were to succeed at whatever you tried to do next, what would you try to do that you haven't really given a shot yet?
I would join a startup company that I really believed in from like the ground up, because I feel like there's a lot of opportunity right now from like if we look at what's going on in other countries or even here in America where things are headed, I think there's so much opportunity, and it's just a matter of like really thinking through what that is. I love Fullscreen though, and I don't know how long I'll be there. But you know, if you start your own company and you own something, or if you create your own IP and your own content, I mean, that's where true wealth is ultimately created. And I've always been a big reader, and you know, thinking about like how am I going to manage my money, and I've tried to be really kind of wise with that. And they all say the same thing: like you need to create something and add value and give something to society. So I'd want to be a successful entrepreneur.
That's cool. What are a couple books you'd recommend? I feel like
oh my gosh.
I know
so
you do
many.
read a lot.
Yeah.
What are like a few, if you were to rattle off like 3 or 4, like.
Okay, I would say The Power of Thinking Big is really great. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is a weird title. Or no, he wrote, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I would say.
Wait, who is the first one by?
The first one, I don't remember the author, but The Power of Thinking Big is just, it's all about your mindset.
I'll look up some of these. Yeah, Dale Carnegie was on.
Dale Carnegie was How to Win Friends, Influence People. Napoleon Hill was Think and Grow Rich, I believe. I would say, so Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, is that's pretty dense, and he gets into philosophy, and he has some great YouTube videos where he debates Sam Harris, who's also has a great podcast.
There's even I actually just finished up 12 for Life a couple months ago, probably 2. But there's I'll drop in this YouTube video, if you're listening to this podcast, you can go over to the YouTube channel and check it out. I'll drop a link there for people that are like, maybe I don't want to read that whole book. I think it's a really, really great book. There's also a talk that he does. It's about an hour and a half long, where he kind of summarizes a lot of the rules, the 12 rules for life. That I think is like a good intro place that I've sent to a few friends. I sent, that have like watched and they've been like, wow, this is really interesting. Some of them went on to like read the whole book and stuff. But I'll link that down in the description.
Yeah, put that down there for sure.
It's a good starting place.
Yeah, I'd say I've read a book about dating called The Sacred Search, which is really good.
Okay,
Talks about how to date, why to date, how to be a man that respects women and what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then, I read a lot of nonfiction, but for fiction, I would read The Chronicles of Narnia is my favorite fiction.
Epic.
Those are class. There's 7. They're really short, and they're incredible.
Amazing.
C.S. Lewis.
Last question for you.
Okay.
Gosh, I had a spicy one prepared.
You could ask the spicy one.
I just forgot it.
Oh.
Yeah.
You gotta write it down.
I do need to write it down.
Yeah.
A good thing I can cut this podcast. Gosh, what was the
topic?
Oh yes, okay, I remember.
Oh, nice.
This is actually a question. So one of my good friends, Quubis.
Oh, I love Quubis.
Yeah, he's a really amazing drummer. We were at coffee recently. This is a question that I'll probably ask a lot of people. I feel like I got to give like question cred to him.
Oh yeah,
because
he's a great question asker. By the way,
he's a great question asker. This is actually a question that someone asked him in a drum clinic he was doing. He did a Q&A portion.
Is this in South Africa when
really
he did
profound? Yeah. Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, he's in China right now doing clinics.
Oh, really?
And then he's going to be on the show probably in a couple weeks when he's back from China.
Dude, I love that. He crashed on my couch for a week a couple years ago, and it was like the best. Like I'd get home from work and we'd have the best conversations at night.
Yeah.
Just about life.
Right.
And
I crashed on his couch for like a couple weeks. Yeah, when I was
paying it back, paying it forward, whatever it's called.
That's great.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so just to give the cred where cred is due. So the question is,
it's gonna be hard.
No, it's a pretty simple question, but I feel like it's an interesting one and it impacted him a lot. But what is something that's really true about you that not a lot of people know, but you wish that they knew?
Yeah.
It could be about your personality, about work, about like anything.
Yeah. I would say that like people Well, one thing that's not about my personality, but about my life is when I was younger, I stuttered really, really bad. Like I couldn't even talk. So I had a speech therapist. And my childhood was really difficult, starting from when I was like 3 or 4, where I couldn't really speak. My brain was going way ahead of the fact that my words weren't coming out of my mouth. And up until I was like 10 or 12, like I still had a speech pathologist. So that was really difficult. And even today I have to like think through it, and think through like, what am I going to say? Does that word make sense? So that's been a burden I've had to carry, and just kind of like people don't really know about it because I can hide it to an extent. I'm a fast talker, and I go too quickly, and then it kind of comes out a little bit. But ultimately, like, that's just something that I feel like when it does come out, people might judge me and be like, well, why did you stutter there? And in my brain, I'm thinking like, I know I looked weird. I can't help it. Like, it's really difficult. So when I saw that movie, A King's Speech, which was about that guy who stuttered, like, I was crying in that movie because I had so much empathy for him. But I also think like I've had a lot of really crappy things happen to me in my life, and people look at me and think, like, oh, you seem like you have it together. Like like life must be really easy for you. But I've had to really like bust my ass. Like in high school, I think I slept 4 hours a night for 4 years, just because I put so much pressure on myself to get straight A's. And I wasn't sleeping. I was in all these AP classes, and I wanted to get a college scholarship, and like no one sees that today. They just look and say, oh, you know that job looks cool. You're so lucky. And in my head, I'm going, oh, that's tough. I'm lucky. You think I'm lucky? Like,
oh, you got no freaking
like
idea.
I know I was fortunate to live in this amazing country and have these cool, but I had to still do something for it. So I think that's something that not a lot of people know, is how hard I've had to work. And I don't need pity or anything. I mean, like I don't even talk about that, but that's one thing. That's a good question.
Yeah, it is.
Like I did not have an answer.
There's like some things there's like some things in you that it's like, man, like this is so true. I wish people knew, but a lot of times too, no one ever asks you that question. You don't have an opportunity to be like, this.
Do you have an answer, or like, are you ever going to answer that, or just going to ask your guest that?
That's a good question. So yeah, I never, even in having asked people this question, having heard it, I don't think I've really thought of an answer for myself. But
yeah, well, you can wait for the next guest.
Well, I'll give you. The first thing that came to mind is something somewhat related to like temperament. Because I think that people have like interesting perceptions of me. I feel like sometimes people think like, oh, I think, well, I don't know. I guess people have a lot of impressions of me. So I feel like people can say, well, a lot of different things, people, positive and negative, I feel like I'm somewhat of a like more polarizing kind of person. So like if people meet me, they're like, oh, wow, I really like that guy. Or like, oh, like I don't like him. I don't know. Like if I were to guess, I feel like you never get a lot of feedback on like what people think about you when they first meet you or whatever. But
you can't.
I guess what I would want people to know is like, I feel like I'm really intentional with how I interact with people, and like everything that I do doesn't come naturally to me. That's a big thing that when some people think like, oh, you're so like I said earlier, oh, you're so like, your routine so much, like you're such like a good like routine person. I'm like, I'm good at it because I suck at it. Like I know that I'm so predisposed to not go this way that's why I'm so disciplined in it, or people are like, oh, like you're so, even if someone's like, oh, you're so nice to people, or you're so,
it's like, no, I'm normally mean. I have to.
No, it's like they're like, oh, you're just such a whatever type of person, when people say that kind of thing, like it's like, no, that's not me. Like I have to fight for it, and it's like, and you like, and other people, people are like, oh, you're so, I don't know, whatever kind of thing, it's like, no, like this isn't normal for me. Like, in fact, it's really, really hard a lot of times. And it's like, but I choose it still anyways, and it's like, and I think too, sometimes it's hard when people say like, when people are like, oh, that's easy for you because you're this way. And it's like, no, it's not easy for me because I'm not that way, but I choose to do it anyways, and I think there's like a lot of different applications of that, but that might be one angle
that's
of
good.
It. Yeah.
That's good. It's like you're on a diet because if you eat ice cream, you're just going to eat the whole thing. So you have to be disciplined. So,
and that's a good example too, because I'm a very like momentum based person. And,
Got it.
And I a lot of times I have to do the little things correctly, and like people don't get like why it's so important to me. It's like, no, I have to like get up and like read, or like, you know, sometimes it's a different thing. Sometimes it's like meditate, or sometimes it's like get a workout in, or sometimes it's like read my Bible or whatever it is. Like it changes up from time to time, but it's like sometimes I have to do the little things, because if I don't, everything else falls apart. You know, and people are like, they don't get it. It's like, no, it's not that. The little thing's not a big deal. I'm like, no, that thing, you're right. Too. It's not a big deal, but like, but it is in the way that it relates to everything else that I do.
Well, just real quick before we end, I just want to, you know, encourage you, because you're doing so many different things really well, and you're sticking to it. You know, we've known each other for a few years, and I'm really excited to see where this is going. And it's not easy, but like, you know, you have a lot of really great things going, and this is awesome just to be here and talk about this. And I want to come on again. Like,
I would love to have you back on. We're like, we get it. Yeah, we're in it. I feel like we like love consuming this type of content too. So,
and the good news is, if you guys have questions, you know, we're at a stage where we could probably answer a handful of them, because we're not going to have like 30,000 comments like, you know, Joe Rogan, but that's good, because then we can talk about them.
Yeah.
But then maybe in a few years you'll be at that point.
Right.